Welcome to another episode of Message from Mom, where we're busting the myth that mothers in law aren't necessarily monsters in law. And I'm joined by my lovely co hosts who happen to be my daughters in law. And I have Chelsea to the right of me. Mix it
Hi.
up today.
Hi, I'm Chelsea. I'm married to Beth's middle son, Andrew.
And Kelly to the left of me.
And I'm married to Beth's oldest son, Alex.
That's right. Usually I go to the left. It's always Kelly first, but I just wanted to see if they were paying attention today. And I think you are, which is good. So. And we have a very fun, it's just a very lighthearted topic today because, ladies, can you believe we are ending 2024 in just a few days? And we started our podcast at the beginning of 2024.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like a milestone for us because I think this is our 44th episode. We started at the end of January. Was it end of January, beginning
I
of
think it was
February?
February because Valentine's Day was
That's
our
right. That was
first.
our first
Yeah.
topic. Yes, because Chelsea and Andrew were married on New Year's Eve last year. So yes. So anyway, but we are successfully wrapping up our first year of podcasting. So we're just gonna have it. It's gonna be super light and breezy. I don't even have a message from mom. Unless it could really be, gosh, podcasts weren't even around when my mom was alive. And now they're the biggest thing since sliced bread. So I guess I could share that. But we're just opening it up to we're going to answer some questions. Inquiring minds always want to know. So we're just going to just have a few Q&As and just leave it open to discussion and the end the year on a lovely fun note like that. But before we get into today's episode, let's raise a glass and a toast because we know you don't have to be a blood relative to love your relative. So cheers, ladies. And cheers to 1 year.
Cheers to 1 year.
Cheers to 44 episodes. Wow, we've talked about 44 different topics.
It's crazy.
It's hard to believe. Excuse me. So, okay, well, so we're going to go into our mailbag because we had some of our viewers. I always like to say readers. They're not really readers because over on the blog, they're readers, they're viewers over on YouTube, but I guess they're listeners on podcasts. So, so we're just going to grab a few questions from our mailbag. And really, the first one is, why did you start a podcast? Because I've actually had some people come over. This has been mostly on Instagram and on my feed, and it's just like I've had a couple of negative comments, like why are you doing this? You should,
really?
you shouldn't be doing that. Giving my voice. I guess they just want to see my outfits. They don't want to hear.
Shut up and show us
That's
what
right.
you're wearing.
Shut up and show me the darn outfit. But anyway, I have had a couple of naysayers over there. So anyway, I'm going to throw it out to all of us. So why did we decide to start a podcast, and then why did we name it Message from Mom?
Well, we've been talking about we as in you and I, and also Alex, my husband, your oldest son, I've been talking about doing a podcast for 4 years now about. And it took us this long to figure out what we actually wanted it to be about because we had a lot of ideas. None of them really were anything that we were stuck on enough that we thought we could, do something with it, and then I think the Message from Mom kind of came from a segment you used to do on the blog way, way back at the beginning that you would have a message from mom for your boys that kind of spurred from a voicemail that you would leave them, wasn't it?
Well, actually, this was very tongue in cheek. This is when Mac was alive. My late husband was alive, and we were living in San Francisco. And when I started on my blogging career, the boys were complaining, and everybody was living in San Francisco at the time, and they were complaining that they weren't hearing from me regularly, like in the days of yore before I actually had a job. So anyway, so it was Mac and I were just coming home we were walking along the streets of San Francisco. I'll never forget. So I'm like, okay, here's my message from mom. And so I just talked about sheets. I'm like, okay, you guys want to hear from me? I'm gonna share how to buy sheets and what kind of sheets to buy. So anyway, it was just very tongue in cheek. So it was never really a blog post, but I did do these messages.
Okay.
So yeah, so I would send it to them. So I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, okay, you want to hear from mom? You're
Yeah.
gonna hear from mom. So
Yeah.
it was just like little practical things. I was like, yeah, actually, it was kind of a good
Mhm.
idea to do that. And so anyway, so that's what that was all about.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So as far as the podcast being message from mom, how did we even arrive at like what we would talk about? And because I think message from mom is it's not only an alliterative title,
Hmm.
but it's meaningful to
Hmm.
us and hopefully to
Mhm.
other people and those that listen and maybe even in their own lives.
Hmm.
So how did we get to talking about the things that we talk about?
I know. How
I
did
think
we?
well, I think that when we first decided that we wanted to start it, we wanted to be able to talk on like a multitude of topics.
Mhm.
And I think that this, message from mom can be such a variety of topics because, like you go to your mom for everything, right? Like,
Hmm.
so I think that's maybe why we were like, oh, this could be a great title for the podcast and like what we kind of speak towards, just because we could, talk about relationships, we can talk about decorating, we can talk about, you know, um, but we just did a podcast on, the food crisis,
Hmm.
but just
Hmm.
so many different things that,
Hmm.
that you could essentially just call your mom up and talk about.
Yeah, and I think essentially a big part of it is the fact that we can talk about a multitude of things, but the clutch part of it is that we all bring a multi-generational
Yeah. And that as
Hmm.
well.
aspect to it,
Hmm.
whether it's through experience or interpretation or just thoughts and feelings about how we're kind of navigating through the world.
Yeah.
So
And I love that because we do. I'm a boomer. Kelly, you're a Gen
X.
X, and then Chelsea, you're a millennial.
Hmm.
And I do love that we have different points of view and different,
Hmm.
um, I guess, from our, I don't know, is it a demographic? I mean, I don't even know what I want to say here, but I like the perspective that we're very, very different. We grow up in different times, but yet we can have very much the same sentiment on
Hmm.
something or, something very different too.
Yeah.
And I actually, me personally, we can get into the next question. I love to hear both of your thoughts on things because it really keeps me in tune to, what's going on
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
the world from your perspective.
Right.
And I personally love that. And it's
Hmm.
been a great opportunity, when we come and do these podcasts week after week. So
Hmm.
but that really is pretty much how we decided on Message from Mom. And as you said, Kelly, we had been talking for several years about what to do, and it was kind of like this and that and then Chelsea came along, and then you were very interested in being part of Style at a Certain Age, and I mean, and that's the blog and the social channels, and
Hmm.
so you came on board that way, and so then you were just really kind of rolled into the podcast from
Hmm.
that point on.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So then it just, I think things just kind of, when we decided. I mean, what? Okay, you can refresh my memory. So when did we actually like decide? Okay, we're gonna pull the trigger on this. We're gonna do it.
I think probably at the end of November last year.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we said we would start it after Chelsea and Andrew got back and settled from their honeymoon. So we knew it wouldn't be starting until right around the
Hmm.
beginning of February.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we kind of had it like on the back burner and talked about it when we would start it.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, we did give ourselves a little bit of a runway.
Yeah.
But I think even from like, if you go back to our like starting episodes, our topics have, you know, even gone even wider as far
Mm-hmm.
as like the array of topics that we've
Mm-hmm.
covered. And,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of kept it very
Narrow at the
narrow at the
beginning.
beginning just because we weren't, 100% sure. But I think the great thing, like we said about Message from Mom, is that it can span so many different topics.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And, the generational aspect we felt was pretty cool because I mean, none of us came from the same generation and we all
Mm-hmm.
think
Mm-hmm.
things differently. And even now, like social media, we're all on different social media channels and how we,
Mm-hmm.
see
Mhm.
things.
We
So
all grew up in very different places in the country, and so
that's true.
we
Mm-hmm.
have
Yeah.
a different touch point of
That's right.
specific
Yeah.
moments throughout our lives that.
Yeah, we have West Coast. You're California.
Mhm.
I'm Midwest. I grew up in Nebraska
And I'm
and
East.
East
Yeah.
with Atlanta,
Hmm.
Georgia, the Georgia peach.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, well, Going on to another question. Well, I don't know. I'll let one of you pick out because we have them written down here. So, Kelly, why don't you pick out a question and we'll tackle it.
Right. Yeah, we can just go down the list. I think they're in a good order here. So how do you like
Uh-huh.
Chelsea? This is for us. How do you like working with your mother-in-law? Has it strengthened or weakened your relationship?
That's a loaded question, especially when we're busting the myth that mothers-in-law are monsters-in-law. Maybe I really am.
Let's dig into this question, shall we?
I mean, I think it's been fun to do the podcast and work on style at a certain age. Um, I mean, hopefully, strengthened our relationship. I think that there's definitely a line between like the working relationship and then the personal relationship. And I think you have to like find where that line is.
Mhm.
And that's maybe, and I think that's one of our questions like later on. We go a little bit more in detail
Mhm.
to that. But as far as working together, I think it's been great. I like the flexibility of it, and I like to, I can do a lot of the things that I do from home, which is
Mhm.
really nice.
Mhm.
Because I do real estate as well,
Mhm.
and so this has been kind of a good thing to mix in. It's kind of taken place of when I would teach dance, and dance is not something that I could do remotely. I had to physically be there and be present for the 4 or 5 hours that I was there. So this is nice because this actually works more in correlation with real estate.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think it's worked into my schedule a lot better.
Yeah.
So overall it's been good.
Overall, it's been
So
good.
has it strengthened or weakened our relationships? I'll ask you that on Monday night when I haven't given you all the assets that you need.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Beth isn't always the best at getting the stuff to you on time. But you know what? I think I've learned to I mean, just I'm pretty type A when it comes to certain things.
Mhm.
When it comes to like a time frame, I'm like very type A.
Mhm.
When it comes to like being somewhere on time, I'm very type A.
Mhm.
And that's just like my personality and like that just comes from my ballet background. I mean, if you were late, you just didn't get into the class.
Mhm.
So like I'll show up to places 30 minutes early because heaven forbid
Mhm.
I'm late.
You would have loved my husband.
um
Heck, he was always early.
so you're a little bit opposite of that. So that's been kind of a learning curve.
Mhm.
But, at the end of the day, I think, this is,
Mhm.
ultimately your blog, so it's as lax as we wanna make it.
That's right. Well, I think everybody realizes that we always get it done. I mean,
Yeah.
I may get it done like 2 minutes before the deadline, but I always get it done. And also, too, I mean, and I'm not really, honestly, I'm not even trying to make excuses, but I have so many spinning plates in the air sometimes
Yeah.
that I'm just like, um, I'm I'm questioning myself sometimes too. Is it okay? Are we gonna get it done? But we always do. I mean, we always do.
Mhm.
That is one thing
Yeah.
that, yeah, it
You're
may
more
it may be
Beth is
right
a
on the
fly
money.
by the seat of her pants kind of gal.
Well, yes and
You
no.
are.
Well, okay. I know that. Okay, well, we can we can have a discussion on
I
this, but
mean that in the best way.
I know, but there again, I know everybody's laughing.
'Cause they know I'm right.
I'm looking at everybody's faces of my videographers sitting across the two. Okay, I won't I will say that I really do what do I want to say here? I mean, as far as I think it can appear that I fly by the seat of my pants, but there's no way that you could run this enterprise by the
Well,
seat of
yeah,
your pants.
she has it organized,
Yeah.
but
It's organized. And you guys, I mean, honestly, you guys come along and help me stay organized too, which is great. And I love that because we do have a team in place. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, and I see what you're saying, and everybody would totally, yeah.
And like
Everybody's laughing right now. Okay.
I mean in like
Next
certain
question.
I mean in certain aspects, not all.
Well, I I will come along and say that
Mm,
I think working together has strengthened our relationship because we've been working together on the blog
wow. Long
for
time.
like 5, 6
Hmm.
years. 6 years.
Hmm.
We did it remotely for a long time,
Hmm.
but then once we moved here, it was full time. And I think we've had, bumps along the road that I think those bumps actually are the things that strengthen the relationship in a more like fundamental long term way, I think, than it just being easy all the time.
Mhm.
So I think moving on to the podcast, though, has really gone far to strengthen our relationship because, and so just so people understand, we actually try to keep um, Style at a Certain Age, the blog and socials separate from Message
Mhm.
from Mom. So we try to treat the two things that we do as very separate entities.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Though one kind of bleeds into the other from time to time, but
Mhm.
I think that the working on the podcast together has
Mhm.
made working on Style at a Certain Age um, better in the long run because I think we've kind of gotten to a point of casual conversation with the podcast that helps with some of the more challenging conversations that we sometimes have to have for Style at a Certain Age.
Mhm.
So I think it's strengthened our rapport and ability to communicate.
I
Mhm.
would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. And I really love the I mean, talk about loosey goosey. I mean, I think our podcast can be, even though it's structured, but I like the organic element when we
Mhm.
actually sit down in front of our microphones and we just let the
Right.
conversation go.
Yeah.
Even though we have our topics, I mean, we're organized behind the scenes, but then when we come sit down, and I think that's for me, it has strengthened our relationships, and
Yeah.
I look forward to the.
Mhm.
Honestly, I have to say the podcast is like my favorite thing to do. Really
Well, it's
is.
been nice too because I live in Atlanta and everyone
Mhm.
else lives in Athens, and
Mhm.
so I'm about an hour and like 20 minutes from where everyone else is. Like this kind of I wouldn't say like forces, but
No, it's
I
built in,
have
but it's built
to
in time.
yeah, I have
Yeah.
to come down here and
Mhm.
my mom that I'm very close with my
Mhm.
mom and she moved recently to 30A. So it's been nice to,
Mhm.
be able to come and do this and hang out.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because I haven't been able to hang out with my mom as much because
I
she's not here
know.
anymore.
I know she's not here.
I mean, I call her like 50 times a day,
I
but
know. That's different than being in person.
yeah.
So, okay. Well, Chelsea, I'll have you pick the next question then from our mailbag.
Mhm.
You can tell, A, I'm tired. A, it's the end of the year, or A, B, and then C.
See.
Yeah. And then C, I'm tired. So, but anyway, go to our mailbag or bag and pick out
Well,
our next
our
question.
next question is what's the best part of being um, a part of a podcast? And I think we just talked
Mhm.
a little bit about that, but
Mhm.
I think for me, what's been cool is to be able to talk on a multitude of topics. And I've actually learned quite a bit of things that I would
Yeah.
maybe not
Mhm.
necessarily know
Mhm.
otherwise. I mean, we did an episode on Kevin Costner, and
Mhm.
I'm not like a huge, like, I'm not out there watching a bunch of Kevin Costner
Mhm.
movies. Like, that's just not me. So I learned about a lot about him when we did that. Just, various topics that I typically probably wouldn't learn about, which
Yeah.
has been
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think too, for me, a lot of the podcasts that I'll listen to just like random offshoot podcasts that are maybe like more so for like millennials or Gen Z that they're listening to. But I think the cool thing about our podcast that maybe some of those podcasts that I'm listening to is, while those are fun to listen to and, they're just like shooting the shit and, talking about random stuff, which we
Mhm.
do as well.
Mhm.
I do like that we kind of keep it a little bit structured and we have the topic that we're going to talk about and we have our fundamental pieces and
Yeah.
um
Mhm.
you know
Yeah.
Mhm.
I personally, I love research. I think it's
Mhm.
so much fun. If I have time to do it, if it's something I have to wedge in between a bunch of other tasks, then it's not as fun. But if I have a number of hours to devote to just like digging into a topic and doing research and kind of going down little rabbit holes to find information, or even like having to watch a movie, like we just did for the Martha Stewart
Mhm.
documentary, like
Mhm.
mhm.
watching a movie for research, digging into stuff like that, that's a lot of fun for me. So I
Mhm.
really, really enjoy that aspect of the podcast. And of course, the conversation is really fun. I think in the beginning, I was kind of nerve wracked by it. But after having done and still do YouTube videos with Beth for shopping things,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
totally makes me nervous. And
Mhm.
I am in a cold sweat practically the whole time. This format is such a relief and it's so much
Yeah.
easier. And it actually
Mhm.
has given me it makes the YouTube videos that we do for the fashion stuff for Saka a lot easier because I've gotten kind of used to hearing my voice,
Right.
talking into a microphone or, having to do that. But I will say the other nice thing about the podcast is that it's the one area in our day-to-day lives with Saka style at a certain age where we don't have to try to sell something.
I know.
And that's actually, that feels really good.
Or
I think.
even, I mean, yes, I agree with that because even like going over to the blog, you know, we're trying to share style tips. I mean,
Mhm.
we're being very focused always on
Yeah.
one topic, which is style, fashion. So whether that's the
Mhm.
outfit itself or going on the back end and then linking all those links so people
Mhm.
can shop it
Mhm.
or I mean writing it. Oh, okay, for the millionth time, why is a monochromatic outfit good for you? Okay, how can we how can we
Yeah.
spin this in a new
It shows that you're a
new
little
and
bit,
fresh way?
more dimensional than
Hmm.
just that one
Hmm.
Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly.
side, which I think,
It's not just an outfit. Yeah.
which
Mhm.
I mean, from my perspective, um, which hopefully, a lot of the people that tune in to the blog and also um, to Instagram and YouTube, like they also kind of come over to Message from Mom because I feel like a lot of people are always curious about your life and,
Mhm.
things outside of just fashion.
Hmm.
And this is a
So
great way to get to know Beth better.
it
Mhm.
is, yeah, a great way to get
It's
to.
not. But the cool thing is, this is what I love, but we're creating a whole new audience.
Yeah.
We really
Yeah, not
are.
just your audience,
Mhm.
but we're pulling from
Yeah,
different,
we're basically
Mhm.
starting from scratch, and so
Mhm.
we are building our own,
Yeah.
brand new
yeah.
audience. And yes,
Yeah.
we have those, amazing viewers, readers, listeners, that will come
Mhm.
over,
Yeah,
to the
for sure.
podcast. I love that. And yes, and you can find out more information about me. But no, we're not talking about dating today because that always
Not
Oh
seems
today.
yeah, that's
that
always
always seems to be the hottest topic.
Yeah, but I mean, I think for people that really find value with the blog, I think that if those people pick and choose from the 44 episodes that we've already done for the podcast, and I think that they'll find that the blog and the podcast, they do go together really nicely. Like it's just a
Mhm.
nice companion piece to one or the other.
Hmm.
And I do know that people who have followed you for a long time do really like to get a deeper understanding of who you are because you don't necessarily share your personal thoughts and feelings about any given topic
Hmm.
on the blog. It's really
Yeah.
about fashion and style and tips and wellness and health and things that are kind of
Black and white.
associated with that. But this,
Mhm.
gives you a forum to kind of talk
Hmm.
about a wider range of things that does give your fans and readers a better understanding of
Hmm.
who you are, which I think is really nice.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
For sure.
Well,
I'm laughing at Kelly's
Yeah.
comment a while back.
which
But
one?
The one when you said that you've like grown to be a little bit more comfortable on talking, but
Oh,
I'm laughing because the majority of you probably don't know, but our first 3 episodes, probably our 3rd episode that we ever filmed,
uh-huh.
we had to drink so much wine.
I
yeah,
know. You did.
I don't even remember what our 3rd
We
episode
did.
was, but we were so nervous that
Uh-huh. Well, we were drinking.
liquid courage is
Well,
what
we
that's
had
called.
liquid
well,
courage every
that's right.
episode, and then we learned after that, those 3 episodes, we're like, "We can't drink until our 3rd one."
No, we can't do that anymore. But we still,
Very
I think that that's when we really, having the cocktail, or basically it was prosecco. We started off with
Yeah.
prosecco in the first one, and we
Mhm.
filmed three at a time. So in that very first one, we were drinking prosecco the entire day, but we were
Yeah.
like we were so beat, and we weren't
Yeah.
even sure we'd have to
It
go
was
back.
like going to brunch
Go
with.
back and listen to episode
Yeah.
3 and see if we're slurring our words
Actually,
enough.
that might have
Yeah,
been one
that's
of our better
Could have
ones.
been, it could be, but yeah, but we learned a big lesson that day. It was like, no, we can have maybe one prosecco. Maybe that's the last, on
We
the
did.
last
I feel like
episode.
we're learning as we go.
Yeah,
definitely.
I
And
love
So,
and
that.
I think the sparkling juice for the first two episodes is the way to go, and
Mhm.
also saving lunch until after the third episode is
That's
the way to
right.
yes.
go.
That's right.
We get
Yeah,
a little sluggish after we eat,
yeah.
so
I think that's very true. We do. That's very true. But yes, but we have learned, and that's also why I think one of the favorite things about writing the podcast with both of you. I mean, not only have I learned more about you individually, but we've learned a lot together
Mhm.
on what works, what doesn't work. I mean, it's been a really great experience
Mhm.
that way.
Mhm.
And I think that that's also so important as we age that, we're always trying new things.
Mhm.
Maybe this will work, maybe it won't. We're kind of throwing the spaghetti on the wall. Okay, it sticks.
Right.
We'll keep it. Oh, nope, the drinks. Nope, that's not gonna, we can't
Yeah.
drink prosecco the
Which I
entire
think
afternoon.
every episode that we've filmed, we have produced, except there was one there was one incident where we did a Mother's Day one,
Mhm.
and after filming, we decided that was
We
probably not the
we
best.
shelved that. We shelved that
We
We
shelved
podcast.
that
shelved
one,
We
but
that.
I
only
think
shelved one
Only
podcast.
but only
And it
one.
was Mother's Day, which is hilarious.
I
But
know
you
because of
two
what the
nerds,
podcast is.
you two nerds were just like, I don't,
Beth basically asked us what our Mother's Day traditions were, and then me and Kelly go,
we don't have
"Well,
any.
we went to brunch."
No good stories.
That
It
was
was
our
pretty, yeah,
episode.
it was pretty funny. It
But
was
maybe we
pretty
can
funny.
revisit that topic in
Mhm.
2025 because by then Chelsea, or not by then, but pretty close to then,
Yeah,
you'll be a mom.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
Mhm.
maybe we'll have
Yeah.
some new terrain to cover
Mhm.
in 2025 Mother's Day.
Mhm.
that's true.
There
So,
you go. All right. Okay. Who wants to pick another question?
um, some of these are kind of overlapping because I think we're getting into our usual conversation mode where we start kind of covering more than just one thing that's
Mhm.
being asked. But um, oh, this is an interesting one. Oh, okay. Running a small business is hard enough. How is it to run style at a certain age with your family?
Mhm. And that really is a very good question, and I think many family members would never work with their family
Yeah, I mean
members
that's
because
advice I think you
you hear
don't
that
ever
all
lend them money
right,
and don't ever work with them. That
right?
kind of thing you
I
hear
know,
sometimes.
I
So
know. And guess what? Guess we have a lot of
kind of done all of
Well,
those
lot
except
things.
for
lot of family members on staff.
Andrew
So
is the only one. My
mhm.
husband will never work at Style at a
No,
certain
he
age.
won't. I mean, well, AJ doesn't either. I
Not
mean,
anymore.
Not anymore.
he's yeah, but he's definitely had a huge input, and he
Yeah, for sure.
yes,
AJ definitely
I
has.
mean, just huge. I mean, and actually, I mean, Andrew doesn't like to uh, think this or say this, but
He's given advice.
he
Yeah.
actually was very instrumental in the early years because
Mhm.
he was in ad marketing,
Yeah.
and he knew. I mean, he taught me so many things. I can't even tell you how many things he
Yeah,
taught me.
Mhm.
for sure.
And so he was definitely instrumental, and he put together like my spreadsheet, and
Yeah.
he did a lot of. He was very very helpful at the very
Yeah.
beginning. Now he's just like no. I mean, he doesn't even want to
Oh,
be. But we have to ask
he's like the
Andrew.
person you hire out. You're like, "Can I just hire you for this one
I
thing?" And
know.
then that's it.
I know. He's always just like, well, he's too funny sometimes because yeah, I'm always asking him like, well, hey, can we take this Instagram photo? Can we put this on Instagram? Well, he's always the one that rolls his eyes,
Yeah.
like I mean, he always does it, but I mean, he's
Yeah.
always he has to be such a little negative Ned.
Not excited to help out.
No, he's never excited in when it comes to that. So anyway, so producer, I'm going to ask you, can you get a Kleenex for me, please? And thank you. I forgot to bring them. It's super cold in Georgia. We're filming this in December, and it's really cold outside. And you would never know that I grew up in the Midwest because I have turned
Lost
into
your edge.
oh my gosh, have I lost my edge? I mean, it's
Happens.
it's like 30 something out there and my nose is running and I'm
Mm.
freezing. I want to just take a nap. And that's it. So anyway, thank you. So I have a runny nose, so all
Well,
right.
I mean, I think one of the just from my vantage point of seeing how the team of Sokka has kind of evolved and come together over the years, I have to imagine that you know it's never easy to like start bringing people your family into the business. So did you have any trepidation like about bringing all of us in such a full-time kind of way because it's one thing to have someone doing this little thing over here helping
Mhm.
out or this little thing over here but then to bring on people that
Mhm.
are in your family but
I know.
in such a like full-time this is my entire job kind of
Right.
way
Right.
from my perspective.
Well, honestly, no, it never really I mean, things have evolved over time, and I
Mhm.
really do think that the big rallying point was when I lost Mac.
Mhm.
When Mac passed away in 2019, and so many of you stepped up and really, I mean, even Andrew, Andrew was taking photos for me. And I mean, he was doing,
Mhm.
whatever he could because I was kind of at a crossroads. And, then that's when Christian volunteered to take the photos. And I just started the YouTube channel, and he's like, I mean, he had no idea what he was doing,
Mhm.
but he just figured it out along the way. And I
Mhm.
have to share with you, uh, when I did lose Mac, it was so comforting to know that I had family
Mhm.
that was really leaning in, not only personally, but business wise.
Right.
So it made it easy for me
Mhm.
then, really, to work with family, because that was also such a hard moment for me, because I do have to step in front of the camera,
Right.
which was so hard. I mean, that was the last thing I wanted to do. I mean, from 2019, I mean, honestly, probably for a good year, maybe even 2 years, that was the last thing I ever wanted to do,
Mhm.
was to step in front of a camera. And guess what? I had to step in front of the camera. I had to step, I had to do the YouTube channel. But it was much more comforting knowing that you were there. AJ was behind the scenes. Christian was
Mhm.
going on, on the streets, and taking my photos, and it
Yeah.
just made it so much easier. So I have to say,
Mhm.
it was just and I just really think that that's how God just really just kind of worked his blessings into the family. And so that was just it was just very natural.
Yeah.
It was really, really natural. But that truly was the pivotal point. And it was at a point when I was probably at my lowest,
Mhm.
and everybody just leaned in, and it was just, so then it has become a great. I mean, I love working with my family. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine work. I mean, we work with other people too. I mean, there are other
Mhm.
people on staff,
Mhm.
and I love working with them too. But I honestly can't imagine it any other way now.
Yeah.
I just can't even
It's
imagine
hard
it.
to imagine it any other way now,
Right?
actually. Yeah.
It just really is. I just can't imagine. And like, Christian's my videographer and editor, and we're never in a fight, but I mean, we're like yelling at each other, and I can't imagine being able, to do that with someone outside of my family. But
You
we're
might get in
probably
you might get
raising our
into trouble
voices.
about that.
I know, but we're also raising our voices because we know each other so well.
Yeah. You have
And
a
so
personal
we're,
relationship.
yeah, so so it's just like, oh, you're just.
The same I think the same family the same frustrations that you have with family members are the exact reasons why you can have a working relationship the way that we do,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Does that make sense?
Mhm. It does. It
Yeah.
really does. And I will just remember when Chelsea was, you had expressed interest in joining Sokka, because that was also at a time we had just introduced Kelly. We had a little bit of a pushback
Yeah, we did.
Mhm.
from, expanding the blog, and, wanting to make it generational. And I think that's why I really love the podcast, because from the get go, it's been multi
Yeah.
generational.
Yeah, I can
Where
see
over
that.
on the blog, I mean, it was down to a certain age, and then it was like, no, but I do wanna introduce, I mean, Kelly, you're petite, and you also have a,
Mhm.
40 something perspective. I like that, and I think that that's definitely needed, and same with you, Chelsea. I mean, now that, you're coming on more and more all the time, but I just remember when you did reach out, and I was like, "Oh, oh, well, but then I was just like, "You know what? You expressed an interest, and we're going to figure this out." So we didn't bring you over on the blog right away, because that's where we were having the pushback.
Mhm.
But you really helped. You started in behind the scenes on Instagram and things like that. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, then I was just like, I wasn't really quite sure, but then then you just kind of figure things out
Yeah.
as you go along, and now
Which I feel like everyone has been at least pretty decently nice to me. I don't think anyone's been
everybody. Oh, so it's
like rude on the blog, and I don't know, maybe it's because I am younger, they like kind of maybe
Also,
people see me as like a
we sort of
motherly.
we rounded that corner.
yeah,
We
Yeah.
rounded
messed
that
that up.
corner.
Yeah.
So we had,
Yes.
Paved
yeah,
the
Yeah.
way.
we were having. I mean, nobody likes change, and
Mhm.
and it's just like, and I've said this many times. I'll compare the blog to like a book. If you're reading a mystery thriller, you can't all of a sudden change to a romance novel,
Yeah.
midship. And
Or
so,
comedy or
uh
something,
huh,
yeah.
Yeah.
so and people don't accept change very easily anyway. And
Yeah.
so we had to be very thoughtful about how
Yeah.
we did things, and I did know that there was going to be a
Mhm.
pushback on that, and there was. But then you work through it, and then you also find a new audience that thinks that it's great. And then now they do think it's, I mean, they
Yeah.
think Kelly's amazing. They think, because we have a beauty editor, they think Jennifer's amazing. I mean, they didn't. I mean, Jennifer,
She had a hard time at the beginning
she had a
too.
really hard time at the beginning, because people were being very malicious.
Yeah.
And
I
and
think the
we
biggest thing was that everyone was just upset that younger. It was an
Mhm.
age thing. It really had It was like reverse ageism.
Yeah, it really was.
So,
It really was. It really was. But
but
anyway.
the thing that I think maybe a lot of those ladies, maybe they got so upset, but they may not have realized that I had already been working behind the scenes at
Mhm.
Saka and having Kelly's Kitchen as a regular
Mhm.
weekly
Feature.
recipe feature
Mhm.
for years before I
Mhm.
ever showed my face,
I know. I know.
So there's a history there. It wasn't like you just, decided one day, hey,
Mhm.
let's have you get in front of the camera. It
Right.
was almost a kicking and screaming kind of thing where I was like, I don't want to do
I
it.
know. I
So we put
know.
it off for a really long
Mhm.
time. But it also gives, I think the nice thing about that is that even at the time, so this isn't a hindsight, idea or anything, but I think it was really important for me to understand how everything works
Mhm.
and your business and
Mhm.
how it started, where it was, how it's go, and
Mhm.
to really have a good understanding of that gives a lot of context, I think, to how I'm able to share my thoughts and outfits and things on the blog in a way that makes sense for the people that are tuning in.
Right.
So hopefully I wasn't, it wasn't like, oh, here's my daughter-in-law. She's going to be on the blog now. And here I am showing up in, a mini skirt and stiletto heels and, a ridiculous outfit that wouldn't resonate at all, So there wasn't a mismatch there. And
Mhm.
it took some people didn't like it at all. And they
Mhm.
decided to stop
Mhm.
following or paying
Yeah.
attention,
Uh-huh.
but some people really did understand and
Mhm.
like, "Oh, okay, I can get how this can work." And
Mhm.
that was a really,
That
Yeah.
is, I will
really
say,
nice
like,
thing about it.
in choosing outfits for when we do our style at every age or for my blog post, it's, I do try to keep in mind, uh, like outfits that I think any generation could wear.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
um, because I think that there probably are certain outfits that I wear that your generation would be like, what the heck?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I mean, and but listen, I'll get compliments on them,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I mean, I think it's a thing where it takes a little while to understand your audience and then you can
Mhm.
sort of push them in different
yeah,
directions every now and
Yeah.
then and start to
Mhm.
explore new pathways,
Mhm.
and they'll be there to go down that path
Mhm.
with
yeah,
you
Mhm.
if you've established that you're like worth their time.
yeah, for
Right.
sure.
But
Right.
I do think that it's important, especially in the medium that we are in. It's so easy to get stagnant.
Mhm.
And so that's why you really do have to you have to think about how you can push the boundaries a little bit and how you can change things up a little bit without alienating
Right.
Yeah.
your audience,
Yeah.
your reader, your loyal, follower. So,
Mhm.
but I'm very, you all know I'm very, very big and aging, with grace, strength, and beauty, which means you have got just, you have to stay modern, fresh, and relevant,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and sometimes that means pushing other people into the
hmm
into the forefront too. So anyway,
Yeah.
well, I think we pretty much covered that
We did.
question.
We
So
covered a few. We
what else?
again have crossed over a little bit, covering a few.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Chelsea? Um, oh, well, this is kind of in the same vein, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it's worth bringing up because we could be more specific about it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best advice you've shared or received for balancing family relationships and personal boundaries?
Oh wow, that's a good one. Um, I'm trying to think if I really have.
I have advice.
Do you? What you have? Oh well, okay, all right. Chelsea, just jump
Well,
right
I
in
don't
here.
I don't know if it's more so advice for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um and this doesn't have to pertain to like so we'll have like we don't have Slack or anything like that cuz we're not like a
No,
big
uh, we did at one point. We started off,
But
but then
Alex really wanted us to
he
use it.
wanted us to do it, but then we
we
were
have
just
Slack
like,
for my Pure Bar team and it's just like
I
it's a
know
lot.
we have
Um
texts and emails and
but on Slack you
phones.
can kind of like turn your notifications off at a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of do the same thing with like any of our like message from mom or, obviously I check my text messages and I check my emails, but
Mm-hmm.
at a certain point in time, I'm like, okay, notifications are off. And the only way for me to see them is if I go into my text messages.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to see a text at 9 p.m. at night. So I think that's kind of like saved my sanity a little bit just
Mm-hmm.
because I think with working with family relationships,
Mm-hmm.
it's really easy to be like, oh, it's 10 o'clock at night. Like, we can message this person or we can respond to a text message because they are family, but it is still a working relationship.
Mhm.
So I do think there has to be, I think the saving grace that I found with that is you just have to shut it off at
Yeah.
a certain point in
That's a
time
boundary. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
and
you
you
put
have
that
to set the
boundary.
boundary. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a good
So
boundary.
that's been helpful for me just to kind of know that,
Mhm.
okay. And I do that with, and by nighttime, I do that with like all of my
Mhm.
messages. Just,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's very wise. I put notifications on starting at 10 p.m.
yeah.
So 10 to 7. Yeah. That's just yeah,
Yeah.
a no-brainer for me, and that's really been very helpful for me just because we do work in an industry that's open 24/7.
Yeah.
It's alive 24/7, and we
Hmm.
could have a crisis 24/7, but
I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that that's you definitely have to put boundaries in, and you really and I've worked really, really hard to do this. I'm not great at it, but I'm much better at just wrapping things up at 6.
Hmm.
And no, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna put a hard stop at 6 and then go make some dinner and go sit down and watch a TV show. And okay, maybe I'll go over and answer some comments. Something very
Yeah.
lightweight, but I'm not going to do
Yeah.
anything major.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work on my YouTube script. I'm not going to do a voiceover. I'm not going to think about
The craziest, the only reason I know that I got this text message is because I am pregnant and I have to wake up 5 million times
uh,
to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night.
uh,
But there was one night recently
I know it's like
where
2 in the morning.
Beth
I know.
texted me at 2:11
I
a.m.
know.
and you were like, links are in the drive.
I know. I know. Well,
But it was more so, I mean, obviously my phone was muted. Like it had nothing to do with that. I just happened to see it because I was,
Mhm,
I had to get up and go to the bathroom.
mhm.
Yeah.
But in my head, I was thinking, what are you doing up at
I know.
2:11 in
I
the
know.
morning?
Well, I think that was the last text that you had left me was, I think it was about
Yeah.
our reel the next day. I think it was a campaign too.
Yeah.
And I'd actually gone to bed. So this is the lovely thing about being at a certain age. Sometimes I will wake up like at 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I don't go
Can't fall
immediately.
back asleep.
I fall
Yeah.
back asleep. So that was just like, okay. That was like, oh, and anyway, I remember I'm like, oh, Chelsea had asked about the links,
Yeah.
so anyway, so that's why. And I knew because usually when I do that, I mean, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll just let the text sit there and then I'll send it off in the morning
Mm.
because, you know, who wants to tip people off that you're, insane and texting at 2 in the morning?
Well, I just thought it
But
was
yeah,
so funny because then I
I
think
know.
that same next day you had texted me at 7,
Mhm.
and I think I woke up and I looked at Andrew, I said,
Does a
"Does your
woman
mom
sleep?
sleep?" I
I
was
know.
like, "I'm
I do.
actually a little concerned right now."
I think that
That's
night.
very good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I wake up,
Oh.
I go to bed at my normal time. I mean, overall, my sleep is like pretty good,
Mhm.
but I do have those nights when I
Yeah.
wake up at 2 or 3, and it's just like, ah, and I don't go back to sleep right
Yeah.
away,
Yeah.
and so and
Do
then
something. You
mhm,
might as well
yeah,
do something, I
yeah.
guess.
So that's
Put
why.
yourself back to sleep.
Anyways, I just thought that
Mhm.
was funny.
I
Although
know.
probably looking at a computer is like the worst thing that you should
I
try
know it
to
is.
do to get back to
I
sleep.
know, which I do know that the whole blue noise and the screen. And I'm like, and
Oh.
I've actually tried to get really good, and I try to put my phone in my bathroom at night, so then I'm not
Mm.
tempted to,
Mhm.
uh,
Mm.
but I did remember that we had the campaign of, so I actually got up out of bed and, got my computer and did that. So anyway, that's,
Anyways.
that's why,
Well, do you have your answer,
that's why.
Kelly? Your best advice?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any advice aside from just create boundaries. I have almost no boundaries
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to Sokka, so
Mm-hmm.
kind of in the shitter there. But um, um, I have a very loyal and committed personality, and so I think that
You're a
well, even
Scorpio.
while I don't, even while I don't necessarily change anything about my notifications at a certain time of day, I don't pay I don't have my phone like in my hand all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes like when I'm kind of done with stuff for the day, I put my phone down and I kind of walk away from it. So I don't even know a
Right.
lot of times when stuff happens. So I
Mhm.
haven't really set up that particular boundary for myself.
Mhm.
Um but I come from a background of working in tech marketing for Apple where you were really expected to answer the 1 a.m. phone call and get up and go to the office if you had to kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I don't know that, and that kind of thing is just sort of been ingrained in my adult working life. So I don't know. I just bring it with me, and I do recognize that I should uh, amend that in some way or another. But
Mhm.
I don't necessarily feel like, um,
Mhm.
you know,
I
I don't
think
know.
I used to be like that, and then real estate actually is what changed that for me
Mm,
because you'll have clients that will just walk all over you, and I mean, I love my clients, but the only time, and I will tell them this when I start working with them, is I will 100% answer your phone call, at 11 p.m. at night. Like if
Mhm.
we're on like due diligence, like
mm,
we're about to like wrap this up
Right.
and we need to get like a contract in or I need a signature,
Mhm.
obviously I'm going to answer your phone call. But like if you're, sending me something that I can take care of the next day and you're sending it to me at 11 p.m. at night,
Right.
I will respond to you the next business
Right.
day by 9 a.m.
sure.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Of course. I mean, and I think that those types of boundaries, I mean, obviously we have those because,
Mhm.
there's certainly been times where I'll get a late night text from someone named Christian saying, "Hey, can you resend this video, blah 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 or whatever." And
Kristen's our videographer,
yes,
editor.
and sometimes I don't see that until the morning, and so then you go about it, but I think for the most part with such a small business,
Mhm.
it is actually, there is I personally,
Mhm.
feel like there is some expectation for all hands to be on deck,
Mhm.
pretty regularly. I'm
Mhm.
not saying 24/7,
Right.
but there's only just a few of us,
Right.
and we have a lot of things to achieve
We do.
on any given day.
We do.
And
We
so
do a really good job.
I
You guys
think I
do
think
a
so.
really
I think
great
so.
job.
But I think having the mentality of all hands on deck, you jump in when you have to, you do what you need to,
Mhm.
even if it's at a weird time of day or whatever. I mean, those things, I think we all kind of possess that
Mhm.
drive to succeed
Mhm.
with this business in
Mhm.
particular. So
Mhm.
I can't say that any of us have ever said no,
Mhm.
or no, I'm sorry, I can't do that.
Well, I'm
Is
laughing.
that bad or good? Wait, I thought that was good. Is
No,
that
no,
bad?
I'm laughing. There is one person that says no frequently.
Oh, I don't know who that person is.
However, however, his no immediately changes to, I mean, he always gets it done. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, can we get past the no first
Yeah,
and
I
then
mean,
just
and
go?
and for all this to be, for all of us to be saying, for us to be saying all of these
Mhm.
things now, I mean, this can come across in the end as a very, challenging working relationship. But I
It's
think
not.
we all come together and we navigate and we
Mhm.
can manage, and we are all still a family that celebrates holidays together.
Yeah, we do.
So all
We
these years
do.
later, like no damage has been done. We're
No,
all
I
managing.
know. Yeah, and which is great. And that, but there again, I'll just go back to that's actually the cool thing about working with your family
Mhm.
is that when I hear that no, I don't really take it personally. I may have taken it personally if that were someone outside of, family.
Mhm.
But since it is family, I just don't. And I know that
You're also like really like I feel like you're
navigate it.
good about, if for whatever reason, we're late to getting something up or,
Yeah.
say you get the Monday night blog post to
Hmm.
me a little bit later
Hmm.
and I teach
Tuesday morning.
Care Bar on Tuesday mornings
Hmm.
and then I have a doctor's appointment or something immediately after that. It's like, okay, that's fine. Like just get it up when you can,
Hmm.
because we obviously have things in our life going on that, if we have a doctor's
Yes.
appointment or we have something that we have had planned,
Yes.
Yeah.
And
There's flex.
also,
We have flexibility.
yeah,
yeah.
and I do like that
Mhm.
because yes, you can also. That's what I love about so a certain age in this industry is we work really hard and you can play really hard too because we have gaps
Mhm.
and we
Mhm.
can make those gaps work for us
Mhm.
Mhm.
at any given point in time.
Right.
For
So
sure.
we do have that flexibility and I like that. I like that
Yeah.
flexibility. And the other cool thing is, and I say this all the time, is this is not neurosurgery. This
No.
is not life or death. This is not,
We're
gosh,
selling sweaters here, people.
that's right. This is
It's a
fashion.
little bit more
It
complicated
should
than
be
that, but
fun. It's all about fun and style and things like that. And recipes and it's just all fun things. So if we perhaps are late, and that's why I try to instill. I mean, we don't like to be late. We
Yeah.
we do like to stick to a schedule, but honestly, at the end of the day, we're
It's
not,
all right.
it's really
Yeah.
okay. And guess what? We're going to wake up the next day and do the same thing all over again. So,
And
we're
the
going to
day
rinse
after
and
that.
repeat. Yeah. So it's,
And
Yeah.
the day after that.
it really is. But I will say, I don't know if I really have any advice about, personal boundaries or balancing family relationships, but I have shared this many times is that I really am. I mean, I could work 24/7 if I wanted to. And actually after I lost Mac, it was really kind of nice. I kind of needed to do that. It was like a lifeline for
Yeah.
me to, to pull me along. And I'm so
A
thankful
lot
that
of people talk about that after losing
Mhm.
someone or a big
Oh
life
my
change like that.
gosh. It was huge. It was really huge. But, now I'm in a really good place. It's been almost 6 years now. I can't believe that since I lost him, and and I'm out dating, and I really do want a personal life. And I've had these conversations, and actually I just had one recently with Andrew and about this, and that it really is important to have my personal life.
Mhm.
So that means you have got to put boundaries around
Right.
when you work. So for me, just working towards, I'm going to stop at 6. I'm going to make my dinner, and then I'm going to watch a show, and then I'm going to go to bed.
Right.
Just little things like that. Or or I'm going to have dinner with my friend, or I'm going to go out with the
Mhm.
girls, or I have a date.
Mm-hmm.
I have to actively carve out that time,
Right.
Mhm.
because I am running a business, and I have to say I do have a lot of responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
and that does weigh on any entrepreneur. But there again, I one of the things that I loved about my late husband was he would walk in the door at 6 o'clock and he checked his bags. I mean, he did not bring work
Mhm.
into
Yeah.
our life at all, and we were able, and because he had that ability, we were able to enjoy life all along. I mean,
Mhm.
and that's not to say, listen, I mean, that man also, when he needed to, I mean, he would be there. I mean, he was in the hospitality industry, and so he had lots of
Fires to put out.
lots of fires to put out. Or the president was coming to stay at his hotel, so of course he's gonna, the man's gonna be there 24/7 for a while. We understood that, but overall, he was just so great at, he knew what his personal life was all about and
Mm-hmm.
what his work life was all about. And so
Mhm.
I go back to that. It's like I can do that too.
Yeah.
And so I've really been working very hard
Yeah.
with that. And I hope you all know that that you need to be doing that too.
Yeah.
So, and that Sokka should never interfere with any of that. So okay, well, I think that I don't know. Do we have anything else to say? I know there's probably
Yeah, no,
more
I mean,
questions, but
a lot of our questions overlap, so I think
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
did manage to answer and cover a lot of what folks
Yeah.
asked us and what they wanted to know.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'm certain of is that I'm so looking forward to all of our podcasts in 2025,
Mhm.
because this one, it will air on December 28th.
Indeed.
This is episode 44. So we are wrapping up our first year, as I said in the opener. But I can't wait for next year, because we're going to have
I know.
we have some really fun things coming our way. And that is, first of all, Chelsea and Andrew are having a baby in May. And that's going to be, I mean, that's going to change a lot of things, and it's very
Mhm.
exciting. So, yeah. But anyway, okay. Well, we're going to wrap up this segment then, and we will be back after a short break for New and Noteworthy. And we're back. And this is my favorite segment of all, because this is where Kelly and Chelsea and I just get to share, just like girlfriends do, our favorite. Maybe we just discovered a new lipstick shade, or maybe we just watched a movie. I mean, it could be a product, it could be, as I said, TV, movie, books, whatever it is, what's suiting our fancy this week.
Mhm.
So, well, Chelsea, why don't I kick it off with you? So, what do you have this week that's new or noteworthy, or maybe it's both?
It's both. It's new and noteworthy.
Mhm.
Wicked, the movie, which I guess by the time this airs, I mean it's in theaters now. I'm trying to think. I don't know when they sometimes
It'll probably be there for a while, I think.
you think it'll just be
I
in
think
theaters.
Kind
so.
of,
Okay.
yeah.
I kind of think so.
It's kind of
Well,
on that Barbie trajectory of
Mhm.
go watch it in theaters. It was great. I mean, I love musical. I've seen Wicked on Broadway, and I really liked it. But I also just love musical movies. So
Mhm.
Sound of Music, I love Mamma Mia. I
Mhm.
love just and I mean, I thought they did a really good job. honestly, Ariana Grande was like the perfect Glinda that they could have picked.
Really?
She like fully embodied the character. I don't think that they could have picked anyone better than her for that role.
Okay.
And then I'm trying to think of the woman that played, what was her name that played
Alba?
Elphaba.
We're not
She can't remember her
we're
name.
not helping you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not helping you.
Yeah.
Anyways, they were both great, and so I think even if you don't like musicals as in general, like as movies, I think that you would still enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a longer movie, but
Yeah.
Cynthia
Erivo?
Erivo.
okay,
That
Cynthia,
is
yeah.
who plays Elphaba.
But yeah, honestly, I think if you don't like musicals, you would still enjoy it.
I'm excited to see it. I actually, I read the book
Mm-hmm.
when it came out. I was in high school, I think, or like, yeah, I think maybe I was a freshman or something. So I read the book. Me and my friend really loved it, and but I've never seen the play, so I'm excited to see the movie.
Yeah.
I saw the play maybe like 2011.
Mhm.
So I don't think it was when like Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel, because they were the original cast, and they're actually in the movie. They make
really?
like
Are
a little
they?
appearance,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
cute.
Aw.
which is cute. But I mean, it was great on Broadway, and I thought they did a great job with the movie.
Okay.
So
Nice.
That's good to hear.
I mean, and it's kind of crazy. Because there is going to be a part 2.
Mhm.
And this part 1 is kind of long. It's like 2 hours and like 45 minutes,
Mhm.
Wow.
but it doesn't feel long.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like it feels,
It moves at a
it
good
feels like a
pace.
fine pace. So
Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
good. Well, we saw that Mac and Andrew and I saw that in New York. And I think I can't remember
that's
if
where I saw it.
that was the one that Andrew didn't want to go see. Because sometimes he's not like a big fan of musicals. But anyway, he ended up crying. He
Did
loved
he?
it so much. Yeah, and he
Oh
was
my gosh.
yeah.
Well, I need him to
One
watch
of the
this
songs.
and The Sound of Music. I tried to get him to watch The Sound of Music, and he ixnayed on the very first
I
song.
know. He's just
Oh.
I
like,
was like, this is the
One of the
best movie ever.
musicals
Oh
of
my
all time.
I
goodness,
know.
is that such a good? That's a good movie, good musical. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
he's just kind of he's like that, but he loved it. Yeah, and he did. He cried during one of the songs.
I
Yeah.
know. Well,
It was so cute. It was so cute.
I think part 2 is going to be like a tearjerker.
Mhm.
Like this was a little bit of a tearjerker, but part 2 is really
Okay.
Mhm.
going
I've
to
heard
be.
good things about it. When a really good friend of mine took her granddaughter to see it, and she
Mhm.
texted me right away. She's like, "That's so good."
Oh, good.
Yeah. So she loved it. So well, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Kelly, what do you have on deck this week?
I also have a movie, but this is on television. So, Yacht Rock. It's a new documentary in the Music Box series by Ringer Films on Max. So, I'm a big fan of The Ringer. I listen to a lot of their podcasts about television and movies.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Simmons has apparently started this Music Box series where they come out with documentaries on Max.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a partnership with them. And this one in particular is about the subgenre of soft rock from the 70s and 80s that has come to be known
Oh.
as yacht rock.
Yacht Rock.
Yeah. So these artists include like Michael McDonald, Christopher Cross.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. Do you know Christopher
Bands like
Cross?
Steely Dan and Toto.
So my really good friend from high school went to TCU,
Mhm.
and so he used to play at like all the fraternity parties and things like that back then. So anyway, just a little fun fact.
Yeah.
You can
Well, he
about him.
so he's included in that group of guys, and the Doobie Brothers too. But anyway, so the documentary goes to explain how the term yacht rock started, and it's kind of a funny story because these guys in 2005, so like before YouTube, like had this web series where they acted out these little skits of what these musicians' lives were like behind the scenes, and they're quite funny. Like they're actually, it's a really good web series.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, they coined the term yacht rock for this subgenre of soft rock. And for a long time, I think a lot of people involved with that yacht rock scene felt it was a very derogatory sort of thing. But these guys come on this documentary and they're talking about how no, it's really coming from a loving place. Like we really love this music. And yacht didn't necessarily have anything to do with boats so much as it was used to describe this soft rock having this very polished and professional jazzy R&B influenced sound.
Were Hall and Oates included?
They are not yacht rock. Watch the documentary to find out why.
Okay.
Anyway, it's really good. And if anybody listening to this grew up listening to FM radio in the 70s and 80s, this movie is like the soundtrack of your life. Like it's really incredible. It's so good.
Well, that's on my list.
Yeah, I loved
right
it.
away. Oh, maybe even after we wrap up today's
Oh
work.
yeah, you'll like
I
it.
have to.
Although you might be too tired to dance because
I know.
you might want to dance while you
Really?
watch it. Well, it's
So
very good
what
movie.
network is, or is it
It's on
Netflix?
Max.
Oh, Max.
Mhm.
Okay, you probably said that. Okay, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, two great recommendations. So actually, I'm going to bring it home with a TV series,
Mhm.
that, and it's maybe halfway through. I'm not sure how many episodes are going to release, but it's a Taylor Sheridan saga, and it's Landman, and it stars Billy Bob Thornton, who is absolutely amazing in this role. This role
Mhm.
was like written for him. I
Yeah.
mean, he is bringing his A game, but I'm telling you, it is a supporting cast that is just as strong, that is making him look really good as well. But it's a story set in Texas, and it's about the oil industry, and so it also centers on a family, Billy Bob's family. So his ex-wife, his daughter, his son,
Mhm.
but then who he works with, who is Jon Hamm, who's the big, so he's the hoity-toity guy that
Mhm.
is, but also under a lot of stress,
Yeah.
because, everything, falls on him, but an excellent TV show. And I've watched 4 episodes, and I really can't wait to watch the rest of them. And I can't wait to watch another season.
Mhm.
It's such great writing, such
Yeah.
great acting. And it's just a really good story.
Kind
So,
of a nice replacement for
oh my
Yellowstone going
gosh.
away, huh?
Mhm.
But so much better, and so
Yeah.
different than Yellowstone too. I
I
mean, I
know,
can't
but
say that it's like better, but I don't think it's going to be a soap opera ish.
well,
But I don't
I
know.
mean, I think actually like a lot of people might get a bad taste in their mouth over Taylor Sheridan because of Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And so this is a really and if even if people aren't thinking this way, I've been
Hmm.
thinking about this just in terms of all of his shows because I've watched pretty much all of them.
Hmm.
But this one is like it's such a great show that I feel kind of redeems whatever
Hmm.
debacles may have happened with the downfall of
Hmm.
Yellowstone. Because
Hmm.
no matter what anybody says and no matter what actually happened, that show is not ending the way that it was supposed to.
Right.
And
Mhm.
so for a writer like Taylor Sheridan to have to take that one on the chin
Right.
and then to still come back with some really great television right now is
Hmm.
I think really shows that he's a really
Hmm.
creative mind and a good
Mhm.
writer.
Hmm. Well, it's an excellent show, so go ahead and watch that. Okay, ladies.
All
Well,
right.
guess what? We're not only wrapping up another segment, but we are wrapping up 2024, where we are busting the myth that mothers in law aren't necessarily monsters in law. And thanks for joining us.